Hello and welcome to Creature Club, a podcast where we talk about the monsters in Dungeons and Dragons, specifically 5th edition. I am joined by my co-hosts, Mikey.
Hello.
And Daniel.
Hello.
We're all back together again.
We are. Fucking hell. It's been a year, I think.
Turns out it takes forever to get us in the same recording
Turns out
session.
It's man.
Yeah. Turns out it was man the entire time.
Yeah.
Turns out we each run quite busy lives and have things that we like to do. But this is very important to us as well, so we like to make sure that we get back to you at least within a little while. I've been having some technical difficulties with my recording software, but that should hopefully be solved. And if you're hearing this, I probably have done it already.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Yay.
Great work, Tim.
Woo!
Yeah,
Thanks.
and we were like...
Great work, future Tim. That's something for you to enjoy when you're editing this.
Yes.
Bad boy, evil Tim. Or present Tim, not evil Tim.
Two versions of Tim. There's future good Tim and future bad Tim. And the bad Tim is the one that isn't editing
There's
this.
two future Tims inside you, and you have to decide which one you feed. I think I read that on
this
subreddit somewhere.
No, we're going to start talking about some dragons. This is going to be our first introductory episode, the first introductory episode, because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where we begin our omnibus into the world of dragons within Dungeons and Dragons.
Good word for it, omnibus. It makes a lot of sense.
That was a great choice of word.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Thank you. I do like my words.
I do also like the idea of us on a bus with lots of dragons, and we're trying to do a tour, and the dragons keep arguing because they're all I want my money back or whatever, and you're like, you have to, sir, you have to sit down for this part of the tour.
Are we doing
Please,
a tour
sir.
about dragons or?
Yes, but two other dragons, to less informed dragons.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of being less informed and dragons, just in case, guys, what are dragons to the people at home?
Oh boy. Well, dragons have a very broad and interesting folk history and mythological history, which I won't be going into in this specific episode. I'll be delving deeper into specific regions of draconic history in the real world with regards to the Celts, the Chinese, the Japanese, and basically everything I can find in between to fill out the history section for each of the dragons. But the rudimentary understanding is that they're big fly lizard boys. They tend to breathe dragon, which tends to be pretty consistent among most of them. Some of them in China look nothing like dragons, but they're considered dragons because they breathe fire. I think one of them has like deer hooves, lion feet, a goat's head, wings, and like a snake tail.
Yes.
It looks like a chimera. Which chimeras actually also breathe fire, so I don't know. But there is a Chinese dragon in inverted commas that dragon in inverted commas that just looks not at all like a dragon, but big scaly lizard boys with typically between 2 and 4 limbs and 2 wings. Sometimes they do have wings, sometimes they don't have wings, but that's getting into the semantics. But that's a lot of dragon.
Yeah, generally with dragons, they are like big lizards, ferocious guys. They fly, they have a fiery breath, and they are intelligent and are just generally normally the strongest and just ferocious things out there, really. They are mean and evil in fiction and stuff, so that's
a lot of dragons being evil was actually introduced to Europe through Christianity when they decided to be like, oh, hey, that dragon is going to eat that princess. And in like the folk tales, some hero would come along and save people. But in the kind of Christian rewriting of certain folk tales, it would be like some saint would come along and be like, I'll save you from the dragon if you all convert to Christianity. So
yeah,
it's Saint George, isn't it? Famously,
yeah,
Saint George and the Dragon.
Okay.
That's my confirmation name.
Saint George
the Dragon.
Saint George the Dragon. Yeah.
Yes, that's isn't that the name of the person?
Daniel Saint George,
Saint George
the Dragon.
I get a lot of I use up a lot of pens filling in my name on forms.
Yeah, he uses famously you have to use like 7 pens to write down Daniel's full name.
I have to draw a dragon and
Yeah.
St. George every time because
Yeah.
of the old Catholic rules that we still run by in Ireland.
Daniel's signature at one
how
point
about
was as a dragon, and it was like really cool. But he decided
It
to
was
just use
badass.
like a D now. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had to bring one of those like multiple selector pens everywhere he went with him.
Yeah.
One that was like green, red, black, blue, but he had like 7 different colors.
Quick
so it was, like,
aside,
all the rainbow.
Quick aside, the 4-way pens are the best pen. They're like the S tier of pens, I think. If you're gonna have a
They're,
pen.
I mean, like just by utility alone, they're S tier. Like,
Yes,
they're 4
certainly.
pens in one pen.
and they're just like they just have a good design, and they're just
Yeah,
good
they do.
pens. Like they feel good to use. I don't know, good pens.
They got a nice size. Yeah, they're great.
I do have one gripe with them. You tend to use the black and blue ones most often, and then if you throw them away and you're done with your black and blue, the green and the red would tend to be wasted. A lot of people don't use green, except when they're filling in official forms, I learned recently. Anyway, this has nothing to do with dragons.
No, I'm enjoying this though. But yes, I agree. It is.
And red is used for correcting for like schoolwork.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Quick,
Yeah, that's the big
real quick, very quick. Have you guys ever taken off the cap of a 4-way pen and used all the pens for writing?
Oh,
something
yeah.
down for like a picture at the same time?
Get that like weird like 3D effect where if you wear 3D glasses, it looks like it kind of jumps out. It looks like that, but it's like 4 different colors.
But anyway, the real cool thing about, like, first of all, guys, if you actually haven't noticed, this is going to be a kind of an introduction, broad term Dragons episode we're going with, because it's such a very big topic for us, and we want to like kind of give you a bit of information first before we start going into the black dragons and stuff like that. But we just want to kind of talk about them broadly at first in this episode.
Certainly.
And then we'll get into it in later episodes. But a real cool thing I found about dragons is that they have popped up in so many different folklores and stuff, but in years. And they're all very different, as you said there, Tim, as you described. But they seem to all kind of share very similar qualities, and they're all dragons. It's a very interesting thing where they seem to, it's almost like they could have existed, I don't know, but in a certain way, you know?
I wish.
I wish to.
Yeah.
But everywhere has their own version of dragon, and that's cool. It seems like we're going with the in D&D, we're going with the classic European example of a dragon, if I'm right.
The Celtic, European, kind of Norse typical dragon. The Norse and the Celts had a couple different variations, but yeah, the European dragon, the big 4 claws and the 2 wings and the big scaly dragon hide or lizard hide, because dragon hide describing a dragon is not useful.
Yes.
Typically the kind of big leathery bat wings kind of style.
Yeah.
'Cause nothing in nature has scaly wings as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I didn't think of that, but yeah.
And just fish in general.
There you go.
Maybe some fish have that.
Fish in general.
So, Daniel, can you tell me this? Where did dragons start out in D&D?
So, unsurprisingly, for such an iconic creature, it is one half of the name of the game. Dragons were first described in the first monster manual. Before we started recording, we can slip a finger around the curtain and show our listeners. Before we started recording, I did read out to you some of the information listed in the first edition monster manual, all the information it provides about how dragons work, and there's a huge amount of information. But on a very fundamental level, dragons work mostly exactly the same as they do now. They have different sizes based on their age, and as they grow older, they get more powerful and they gain access to new abilities. They have claws and bites, which they tend to fight with, and they also have a breath weapon based on their element of choice, or element of color. As they grow in size, they eventually gain the ability to cause their enemies to flee in fear, which we still see now. And of course, they have a lair and they fill it with treasure, and the amount of treasure is based on how large and successful they are. The only thing that's interesting, actually, in the first edition book that I find kind of interesting is there's a segment entirely called "Weakness of Dragons," and this is almost a segment that doesn't really do a lot mechanically, but just kind of explains a little bit about how your players might deal with them. It says, "The innate cowardice of dragon kind is shown by the fact that they can be subdued. Dragons' egoistic nature makes them subject to flattery, and it also makes the more stupid of them prone to attack other powerful creatures whom they view as disputing their dominating position. Greed and avarice are major motivating factors in all but the loftiest of dragons." It basically mentions then that silver, gold, and the platinum dragon, who we will later learn is Bahamut, are the only ones who can kind of resist the lure of treasure because they are more noble than their kin. So they are subject to manipulation by very clever persons, or the prospect of actual treasure and the promise of more forthcoming. So there's a little bit there about like how, hey, dragons are super dangerous. They're really big and they breathe fire and they're a pain in the ass to kill because they can fly. But I mean, you can burn them, they have their flaws, they have their weaknesses. So we very much get the notion, even in the first book, that a dragon is not just a creature with hit points that you deal with by fighting it. It's also kind of a political entity. It's something that can be manipulated by agents of the outside world. It has clear personality flaws that a cunning individual can play on. It has rules about how you're able to subdue and capture dragons, specifically about how it works indifferent to other creatures. And so there's a lot of information about how they're kind of they're clearly sort of established in some ways to be set apart than a lot of other creatures in this book. In this book they establish the chromatic and metallic dragons. They also establish the chromatic dragon and the platinum dragon, who of course later become Bahamut and Tiamat respectively, the two gods of dragon kind. So a lot of information there is kind of what you'd expect. We can get into the specifics when we dive into the specific dragons, but at a fundamental level, a lot of them are similar to how we see them now. In the second edition, they get loads of cool special attacks that I actually really like. But a lot of it's just kind of mechanical breakdowns of stuff that they could already obviously do. Like how they can grab people and fly away with them, or they can dive bomb people or kick them. Or this is the first time we see them with the wing buffet power, which is now a legendary action that all dragons share. There's the tail slap. There's the ability to hang in the air. And then again, it mentions the idea of, hey, dragons, if they're smart enough, can cast spells. And it also specifies in second edition the notion that if a dragon casts spells, it only needs the verbal components, because it is speaking kind of words of magic that act. So they don't need material components like mortals or somatic components. They just need to sort of speak, and it is so, which is pretty cool.
So Daniel, you mentioned that there was chromatic and metallic dragons there, and that's kind of the classic, D&D dragon thing. But for people who might not know, what are they? What kind of dragons do we have in D&D?
That's actually a very good point. So broadly speaking, the world of Dungeons and Dragons divides their dragons into the chromatic dragons and the metallic dragons. And the thing they have in common, even from the first edition of the game, is their alignment. So if we look at them, the chromatic dragons, the dragons who are themed around colors, there's black, blue, white, red, and green. They will all be some version of evil. Even in the first edition of the game, we see a mixture where some are chaotic and some are lawful, but they're all evil. And comparatively, all of the metallic dragons, so brass, bronze, gold, silver, and copper, they're all good, either lawful, chaotic, or sometimes neutral good. And then we also get the chromatic dragon, which is Tiamat, which is also evil, and we get the platinum dragon, or Bahamut. It describes that they're kind of they're sort of the leaders of the dragons, but it's not as clear so like for example, it simply says that Tiamat rules the first plane of the 9 hells, where she spawns all of evil dragonkind. She hates all good as fiercely as she loves cruelty and hoards wealth. She is seldom 10% outside her lair, but occasionally she. This is the fun part about AD&D, is that you always get a percentage when someone says something like seldom or occasionally. But occasionally she comes to Earth to place a new dragon or to seek more treasure. She can travel astrally or ethereally. And then for Blackmud it says, the king of good dragons, Bahamut the Platinum Dragon, dwells in a great fortified palace behind the east wind. No one knows for certain if this place is on the elemental plane of air, or some plane betwixt it and the 7 heavens or tri-paradises, save Bahamut and his court. About 1/4 of the time he roams the earth in the guise of a human, or nearly any other form he chooses, for Bahamut is able to shape change freely. He can travel astrally or ethereally. So we established that we have these kind of 2 cosmic forces, one from hell, one from kind of the heaven of air, this sort of like more abstract, almost behind the east wind. Yeah, it was sort of a deliberately abstracted notion. The idea that maybe it's almost in some ways easier to reach Tiamat because you know where to find her than it is to reach Bahamut, which is kind of interesting. So we kind of establish even in the first book that we have these 2 kind of sides, good and evil, in this kind of war. But we also, because of stuff like how it describes their weakness of treasure, the idea that maybe all dragons in some way are kind of vain and flawed and greedy, and it's really only like, like Bahamut and maybe the gold dragons who are truly good anymore. But yeah, so we kind of established that they're on these 2 sides of the coin. We also get other types of dragons, but they're like less developed. We get the I think they might be I don't know where to find them in first edition, but in the second edition monster manual, when it describes dragons, it describes chromatic, metallic, and then it also describes gem dragons. So amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, topaz, and I think that's all of them. There might be another one, but I can't find them. And their thing is that they're sort of the almost the middle ground. They tend to prefer neutrality. They generally prefer talking to fighting. And they also, the third thing they have in common is, unlike their other draconic cousins, they are masters of the psionics. So rather than being spellcasters or able to like breathe fire, they can, create. They have telepathy or telekinesis, or here it lists that the amethyst dragon has psychokinesis, psychometabolism, telepathy, and metapsionics. The crystal dragon has clairsentience, and so they sort of have their own style of power. But in a broad sense, we kind of get the idea that the dragons are divided along the lines of alignment. And where they sit on that alignment kind of determines their attitude and maybe their origin and often their species. So whether they're colored or metallic or gem.
Yeah. With regards to the gem thing, I thought that was particularly fascinating because I never heard of anything psionic that was particularly good within the canon of D&D. Like you have the Mind Flayers and the Elder Brains and what's the name of the guy? The big evil god, like the Chain God guy who's all about the fucking mind control and chaos and stuff. They're going through an arc of his in Critical Role at the moment, but like
there's also the Aboleth as well.
Yeah, the Aboleth as well, another powerful mind controlling dude. But none of them that have the kind of psionic abilities were particularly like pleasant. Like they were more about mind control and domination than like the kind of conversationalists that you may have kind of presented with the gem dragons. So I'm fascinated to
Professor X. Oh
yeah. Xavier.
The villain of X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, the villain of X-Men.
Never a good guy.
Don't at me.
do at him though.
But do though.
There are also some other dragons listed here in second edition. We get some interesting ones that are like they're outside of the other things. So like there's the brown dragon, who is otherwise known as the Great Desert Dragon. They're not necessarily quite like other dragons, the brown dragons, for example, don't have wings. They're kind of separated from the rest of their kin.
Oh.
There's cloud dragons, there's deep dragons, there's mercury dragons, there's mist dragons, there's shadow dragons, there's steel dragons, there's yellow dragons.
Time dragons.
Time dragons. Time Wizard
Angler
Go.
dragons.
Yeah, angler dragons in your Underdark.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
From our homebrew.
Sea dragons.
Although the existence of yellow dragons has long been speculated by sages based on theories of primary colors, that's a fantastic line. There's a red and a blue, so there's probably a yellow somewhere. Yeah, maybe.
Probably. I guess. Yeah, they just buggered off elsewhere, or maybe their color wasn't a particularly strong like DNA thing. So anytime they made it with another color, they just like the other color was much more like strong genetically. I'm getting into weird stuff.
Their main thing is that they like areas of desolation, and they actually have a really interesting thing. Yellow dragons speak their own tongue, which is quite different than that spoken by other evil dragons. Yellows have no interest in speaking with other races, so they learn no other languages. So unlike the chromatic or metallic or even the gem dragons, they have no interest in other creatures by definition. They just think they're lesser, so they don't care about them. So they won't even deign to speak their language. So that's the difference between, say, like a red dragon and a yellow dragon. A red dragon will taunt you before it eats you because it wants you to know that it understands you and it wants you to suffer. The yellow dragon just sees you as food, it doesn't care.
They're more primal, I guess. Like the white dragon is conveyed as that in D&D. I know that it tends to be kind of more primal and not particularly intelligent.
Yeah. I always loved about the white dragon is that everyone says the white dragons are stupid, but like their intelligence are like way more intelligent than the average person.
For sure.
It's just like a weird dragon propaganda going around that white dragons are stupid, even though they're slightly less intelligent than the rest of the dragons, but they're not really.
They're still as smart as a person, and they're also the size of a dragon.
Yes.
And if they are stupid, they're smart enough to know they're stupid, which is very dangerous.
Yes, that's a very dangerous kind of stupid.
They have a high enough wisdom score that they know they're stupid, which means that they know that you're trying to trick them. They might not be able to figure out your trick, but they probably know you're trying to play them, and that will probably upset them.
In D&D, if you wanted to go with a more primal like dragon, then you go with the wyvern, because they're made as like they're dragons. They fly around. And they do the dragon stuff, but they're animals. That's kind of how they're made in the game. So, which we'll get to when we do the wyvern. Yes, they're very small, but you can probably make a great wyvern. You can make a big one if you want. If you really.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I suppose you could have like an extra dragon campaign where the wyverns have just like they've kind of built themselves into like maybe they're kind of rampant and they're just going around and just destroying things, and then you get to the core of it and there's like a giant powerful great wyvern or something that's like the size of, I don't know, Tiamat or Bahamut when they arrive on the plane. They're just like gargantuan, I think is what they typically go for in 5e for the
gargantuan is just for the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But also because
cool.
they are kind of animals, then they're not really kind of these godly things. They're just a thing that exists here. They're just another beast. They're not like Tiamat sent them here because that's all Tiamat sent all the evil stuff here. No, it's just wyverns are just evil, and they might have been derived from dragons in the past, but they're just not evil. They're just beasts. They're just animals. That's what I meant to say.
They're just beasts. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Reign of Fire.
Yes,
like the dragons in that were wyverns, so they were constantly attacked by these younger dragons, but then they had to go and hunt the mama dragon, basically, which was fucking massive, and Christian Bale
gets eaten. That's the only bit I remember.
Matthew McConaughey jumps into a dragon's mouth. Going like,
is that Matthew McConaughey? I thought it was Christian Bale.
That's Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's Matthew McConaughey. Fucking what a man!
Yeah.
What a man!
They're both in that movie. Crazy. Amazing. Great movie. I love that. That was one of my first introductions to like incredible TV graphics or like movie graphics of dragons. And I was
TV graphics.
That Dragonheart were my TV
Turn up them graphics.
Graphics 10 out of 10. Story 10 out of 10.
Guys, you're bullying me.
Turn up the graphics.
My Grand Prix. The Dragon Grand Prix.
Jeez, so this episode is just bonkers.
It's Dutch.
Chaos. No, but basically,
this episode is sponsored by Chromatic Dragons.
If you're listening to this, you probably are already aware of this. But we have the black dragon, the blue dragon, the green dragon, the red dragon, and the white dragon, all with their different kind of thing, all with a different kind of breath weapon. And with the metallic dragons, you have the same different breath weapons. You have the bronze, silver, copper, gold, and brass. That's it. And they all have different breath weapons, and they're all different kind of things. So you have different kinds of dragons for different colors and stuff, and that's kind of what we're talking about. But as Dan was mentioning there can be a whole bunch more if you're just creative enough, I guess. You can kind of make your own dragon if you so wish, because it's such a broad term. There can be any kind of dragon. If
I mean, want, I probably wouldn't bother making my own. I'd probably just steal one, because there's, as well as the second edition monster manual having some, the Monsters Compendium has even more. So just steal from Wizards of the Coast. Don't there's so many existing dragons. It's like, just use this.
There's so many dragons
just take this.
out there. Just use them. And if you're probably thinking of an idea for a dragon, you can probably just, use another dragon, the same thing. You can make it as well, but it probably already is out there, or you can kind of add that ability onto another dragon. Whatever. Do whatever you want. It's your own D&D game.
And we always suggest, send stuff to us. People send us, pretty well fleshed out ideas for their homebrew already. But we've even said in previous episodes, just send us an idea that you might have. Just, something cool that you want us to kind of play with and toy around with, and maybe create something ourselves so that we can put that together for you guys. Because we love that.
Just to finish up on the history there of dragons, 3.5... more of the same, more dragons. There's some fun stuff where, because 3rd edition and 3.5 are really rules heavy, there's a table of dragon overland flying speed, which describes how fast they will move in hours and days if you want to calculate a dragon traversing a map of the world or whatever, which is fun. It just says they can fly really fast, by the way. They can fly normally 15 miles per hour, which is that would be their slowest flight speed, up to a maximum of 40 miles an hour, or 80 miles if they wanted to hustle, which means they can cover anywhere between 120 and 320 miles a day. Dragons, and then it says dragons not tire as quickly as the creatures, blah blah blah. It's just some stuff. But there is actually a cool thing where there's a little description on dragon hide, where it says armor smiths can work with dragon hides to produce masterwork armor or shields for the normal cost. One dragon produces enough hide for a single suit of masterwork hide armor for a creature up to one size smaller than the dragons. Blah blah blah. Or you can produce. So it describes how to turn dragons into armor and how the rules work, which is actually pretty cool, I think. I think it's nice to have a system that just says here's how it works, and obviously you can do it differently. But it's cool.
There's going to be lots of monster huntering my monster with this season.
I like that dragon's flight kind of speed that you're talking about there, Daniel, because it's kind of you might use that for a campaign that's oh no, a dragon's coming to our town in this amount of days, and you have that table to tell you accurately, I guess. But maybe you can kind of prepare for a dragon's attack or something. Oh no, Smaug is coming. He's going to attack us. How do we prepare for this? And then you prepare,
I don't know anything about dragons in 4th edition. Mikey, do you want to talk about that?
Oh my gosh. Did I ever tell that dragon story on here? I'm pretty sure I did many times.
I don't know if you told the story on the podcast. You've definitely told me.
I've told everybody this story, I think.
I think this is, if there was ever a time to tell it, even if you're telling it again.
Yeah, even if this might be the first episode people heard this story. No, but basically, I used to play 4th edition with my friends. That was the first edition I played, and it was a good edition, and I quite enjoyed it. But usually when you're fighting against big dragons, which I'm pretty sure we were fighting against, I have the stat block here, an ancient black dragon, 1,190 hit points, or there's an elder dragon, 860 hit points. Yes, no. At one point, I was like, I'm through whatever circumstance, the party went up against a black dragon. So it was either an elder black dragon or an ancient black dragon. But this guy was a big bastard. This guy was the main honcho. So I'm pretty sure this, because I've heard the story a lot with other people online about 4th edition and talking about a boss monster, but this encounter lasted from I'd say 1 p.m. or 12 at noon till like 12 midnight. It like lasted so long because it just the fight took it took forever. The fight just took so long. And that campaign, like that session was like, let's take a little bit. We set it up a little bit for about maybe the first hour. We set up the fight. They got to the place with the dragon. They got to a certain island, and then they found the dragon. They fought it. But then after that, it was like 11 hours of fighting this dragon. And towards the end of it, they're just like,
so fucking
we
funny,
can't
man.
do this. My friend Kevin, he was playing a Trikreen barbarian called Shaka Khan, and he was the only like martial fighter there. He's the only physical fighter. So, but 4th edition, funny enough, which I'm trying to find here. Here we go. Tail slash. Immediate reaction when a melee attack misses the dragon at will. At will. So this happens every time. When it misses a dragon, the dragon attacks the enemy that missed it. Reach 3, plus 24 versus AC, 1d10 plus 8 damage. And the target is pushed 2 squares. So when Shaka Khan...
Plus 24.
Yes, when Shaka Khan, the barbarian, the only physical fighter in the party, missed this dragon, he got attacked with plus 24 against AC for like a d10 plus 8, which is pretty bad, even at that level.
Chunky.
Yeah.
So he died in that game. And then everyone, after like throwing spells at it and throwing arrows or whatever they could at this thing, after 11 hours, the thing went down. And I think at that point, we're just like, never again are we playing this game. And then I think the day after I met up with my party and it's like, so 5th edition's out now, let's give that a go.
Oh, nice.
So we just looked into that and we just like 5th edition is just like, yes, we're like, so that encounter is the reason why I'm playing 5th edition today, because even when 5th edition came out, I was like, 4th edition we know how to play, let's just keep playing that game. But after that encounter, no, not again, please.
No.
Which 4th edition has a lot of good things about it, but that encounter was not one of those good things. So,
Yeah.
moral of the story, don't play D&D for 12 hours in the same encounter if people are bored in that encounter. So there you go. Anyway, what was I talking about? Dragons in 4th edition.
Yes.
There's a lot about them. They're kind of pretty much the same thing. As I said, they have pretty much all dragons have like a double attack, multi-attack. They have a bite and claw weapon. They have, as a classic thing, tail slash, as I mentioned. Most of them have that tail slash, I think. Even when they're a young black dragon, or a young dragon in general, if you miss them, then they get a freeze tail attack against you. They have a breath weapon. They have a bloodied breath where they recharge with their whatever. And they have a frightening presence, which is a thing that pretty much all of them have as well. So a lot of them just have the same things to them there. It seems like this dragon here is the same or like very similar to what we have in the 5th edition monster manual. Other than that tail slash attack, which is just, silly, I think. It's kind of, I guess, kind of bullshit. Probably some different things about the lore here, but very similar. Like the black dragons are, acid breath. They're kind of malicious. Red dragons are the main guys, like to hoard treasure, stuff like that,
And I suppose all the kind of weird gem and alternate color variations kind of came with 3.5, which is kind of what we'd expect of 4th edition, because they had all the weird like variations on everything else that we've done so far. But it seems 3.5 and 3 stole the thunder for dragons. But maybe that's where they got the idea to expand into various other things for the different monsters.
I guess so. I don't remember the gem dragons being in 4th edition or like that, I don't remember that too much. So maybe it was just 3.5 as Dan mentioned there. So
and then in 5th edition, we're going to be going through them over the next couple of weeks, presumably the next 12 weeks or something.
Yeah.
barring a couple of breaks where we'll probably do some other stuff, but
we will be
5th edition is what we're going to be doing.
That's right. We will be going through the black, the blue, the green, the red, and the white, and then after that, we'll be going through the metallic ones. And what do we have again?
Brass, copper, gold, silver,
Bronze.
There we go.
We always.
And then after that, we'll go through the dragon templates. There's going to be dragons for a while now, guys. So we're sorry,
Yep.
but it's going to be happening. And after that's done, like it's just going to be regular Creature Club episodes.
It's going to be different creatures for a while until we get to giants, and then it's going to be like, get back on that horse.
Yes, and eat that horse.
And you eat that horse.
You said you were hungry.
You said you were hungry. Eat the horse.
You get on that
Eat
horse.
it, Kaiba.
Eat it.
So that's them throughout time. But I think we're gonna talk about.
Is it?
We're gonna talk about. We're going to talk about our experiences with dragons in D&D specifically, and how we tend to use them.
But for our listeners who are thinking of running a dragon in the immediate future and maybe don't have time to wait for, say, our White Dragon episode to come out, I'd highly recommend they look into the older editions of the game. There's a lot of really interesting ideas there about different kinds of attacks they have, both specific to the type of dragon, but also generic attacks that like any dragon can use. Or stealing the ideas of the less common dragons. So like, steal the brown or the yellow dragon's powers, because how would anyone ever know? Because they don't look at these dragons. So, yeah.
I was kind of planning to... I mean, now I realize it's kind of silly of me to do, but I was waiting for us to get to the dragon section so that I could start building like a second world. Because in my current D&D setting, Volundas, there's... Yeah, in my second life, I will
Only Kermit
establish
with
more
2
dragons.
swords.
I'm Kermit with 3 swords.
Fuck.
Damn it! Didn't see that coming.
God, I hate
But
this game.
yeah, I don't currently have any dragons in my set. Well, there aren't any like story-driven dragons. Like dragons don't drive any of the story in my current setting, despite the fact that I love dragons.
Yeah.
I think my brain was just like, do something other than what you want to do right now.
That's a weird decision.
Right? But like I think that this series is even going to inspire me to come up with stuff. Like talking about the wyverns just there made me think, well, that is a really cool thing that we could do with dragons. Like the wyverns are just going to start like taking over the world. They're going to be like a horde of these kind of moderately sized flying creatures that just tear through the landscape and like a plague, basically. And I think that will be I think I'm just going to build a setting out of just everything that we talk about over the next however many episodes.
Creature Club setting.
Which was my plan. Yeah, the Creature Club dragon setting. We're going to have all of our dragons do cool stuff. Yeah. And I'm excited for it.
I know that I think when myself and Dan, we were talking about our shared setting, Scarus, I don't know if you mentioned it or if we mentioned it or someone mentioned it. I don't know who agreed on it or if we have agreed on it, but I like the idea that we mentioned once that there's like this one great worm who is the one head of each of the like colors, I guess. Like there is a great black worm. That is
there's the great black worm, and it is the strongest black dragon in the world. And like the only way for it to stop being the strongest black worm is for another black worm to kill it, or more likely a party of adventurers to kill it.
And that could be like, it doesn't actually, it's like preferably an ancient black dragon, but it doesn't have to be a black dragon. It could be like maybe a younger, more powerful dragon is like, I want to take you down. I'm now the new black worm. And that's it. And there's kind of like almost not really, but kind of like a game or like a council of dragons going on where it's like, no, there's only one like great worm of each color and each like type, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like part of, draconic culture, and it's become a legend amongst normal people. So like, even though the idea like there's only one great black worm, like obviously you can break that rule. So like, there might be a dragon who's actually stronger than the great black worm, but is like expelled from the game for some arbitrary reason or whatever. But like the idea that like the dragons all like, if you found a dragon, you could ask it, for example, where the great black worm is, and it would know, because like it would be like knowing where Offaly is or something like that. Like you have to know.
The difference is if you almost like Offaly, if you try to go to Offaly and try and fight it,
something bad will happen.
Will happen.
Unless you bring all your strongest friends, in which case you might survive.
Maybe your great great worm of a specific color, there is a more powerful dragon, but he takes such pride in serving the great worm that, like, as his right hand man, as his like sword in his hand, he just works for it. Everybody knows he's more powerful, but to challenge the great worm at the moment is to challenge this younger, stronger dragon.
And you can go into the politics of it if you want, but like that's cool. You can kind of have this like little like, no, I'm not actually the strongest guy. My underling here is to beat
I am
him
not left-handed,
to get it.
basically.
Like, you can do that, and that's interesting. That's cool. It doesn't have to be like fight all these colors and they're all the strongest guys. You know, like a shonen anime. Like that's
defeat my rainbow of dragons hero.
Yeah.
Only then can you have the +2 sword.
Yes, +2.
Do you think? Do you think your great worms will ever like fight with each other, or do the colors tend to stick to themselves? Like, will there be like every 100 years there'd be a great traditional bout?
I think the idea of like a great worm fighting a great worm would be like the idea of two kings going out into a field and decking each other. It's like, no, I don't kill people. I have men to do that for me.
Yes.
Like, that's below me.
I had a idea a while back for a campaign of like almost like a game of dragons where it was mainly for, I think, the metallic dragons who were just bored and who were good guys, but they wanted to do something, so they sent out adventurers to like compete against each other in a way where they were kind of like pulling strings for like this kind of game going on in this kind of but also you can probably do it against a metallic versus a chromatic, so you can have kind of like a Sherlock versus Moriarty kind of game going on, you know.
Yeah, you could have like play and counterplay, like
stuff like that.
You could have like you could be members of a dragon cult fighting members of a different dragon cult whose religion you disagree with because you follow different great worms or whatever. That could be kind of fun.
You are the enemy of my god.
Pretty much. And stuff like that, where, as Dan said, you would not see the great worms going out there because, like, no, I don't like. That's just, why would we do that? That's kind of,
it's literally like, that's below me. I'm a god. Why would I go and kill people? Like, if I want someone dead, I say it, and someone else does it for me.
Okay, cool.
Like, obviously, if they were like, okay, I'm going to fight you, they're probably like, you know, one of the rules I have for Scaros is that like belief is power.
Yes.
So like I would say that like every black dragon in the world believes that the great worm is the most powerful black dragon, and that belief makes the great worm the most powerful black dragon.
Yeah.
So like
cool.
They would just have powers. It would just be like they roar and the earth shatters because that's what the great worm's supposed to do. And like it's like they don't even know they have these powers. They just like, they're like, of course the world does this, like why wouldn't it? I'm the most powerful dragon in the world.
Yes.
So like it would be like so much, like literally the point of like, I have so much self-belief that I'm making it reality. Like I believe this will happen when I believe when I breathe into the air it will rain acid, and so it does.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter that doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter that that's not how acid rain works or whatever. That's like cool. It's just like I am like a god amongst these foolish creatures. I'm going to make something happen so that they witness my power. And
that's fascinating.
Both the belief of the other dragons and also the fear of the people witnessing the creature are like sufficient to make it so effectively.
Like a quick aside, Tim, like the divine power in Scaros, like Dan mentioned to me that we kind of brainstormed that the divine power is more like just a bunch of people in a religious organization just believing enough to make that power almost like...
It's literally like the church is a self-sufficient source of energy.
Yes.
Like everyone in the church believes it works. And so they all draw power from it. And so it works. But like there's supposed to be a god, and there's myths about the god, and there's evidence that the god was here at one stage because of some stuff. But that could just be belief. Who knows? And like the idea is just, you don't know. Like... You know, like you're able to bring people back from the dead, but that might just be because you believe clerics can bring people back from the dead because the myths say that clerics could do it. And so why would you stop being able to do it?
Yes.
That's kind of cool. And with regards to the dragons specifically in this situation, dragons age, obviously. Like, I don't think that anywhere in Dungeons and Dragons they're immortal. Like, so if a great dragon has been around for long enough, people will be like, he's getting kind of old. So their belief might wane in his strength, and that's where a dragon will be replaced. That's
another one pops up and it's like, no, I'm actually the reincarnation of this, and I'm going to take his power now. Stuff like that, you know, just kind of either a power move or something like that. You know, just taking pantses him. But whatever way he does it, he takes the mantle
Bags him.
of that. Okay.
If he's been bagged,
he bags,
no one believes me
pantses,
anymore.
and just generally humiliates this guy like it's secondary school all over again. And then he takes the mantle of a great worm.
He bags him, and then he bags his pencil case.
Oh my god, that's
no.
And it's like,
That's
Jesus,
that's too much.
okay. When you opened up your bagged bag, and
Yeah.
then you saw your bagged pencil case inside.
pencil case.
Actually, for our American listeners,
You like fall
for our
upon your
American
sword.
listeners back at
Oh
home,
my god, yeah.
I
Jesus.
have to explain this because it's fucking hilarious.
You have to explain bagging. Yeah.
Bagging is a Irish term that when you were in school and let's say you walked out to go to the toilet or something,
Bagging is so good, man.
then your colleagues
lore.
in
Bagging lore.
yes, your colleagues in your class. Your
schoolmates,
classmates,
DC,
your
come on.
schoolmates. I completely
Your comrades.
your class comrades,
Comrade, I have bagged you, da.
your class acquaintances. They see your bag, and what they do,
Your school chums.
your school chums, they grab your school bag and they take
Yep.
out everything from your school bag, and they
Yep.
put your bag inside out, and put your stuff
Yep.
back into your inside out bag,
Yep.
and close it
It's
up.
amazing.
And just leave it there. And then when
So
when
good.
you come back into class and you see your
back,
bag is
yeah.
inside out, that means you're bagged.
Yep.
You're bagged.
It's so good. I
been
fucking
bagged.
honestly like a lot of that shit was like juvenile or whatever, but I think bagging someone is so funny. Like I still think it's so funny. I don't know why, but there's something that I'm like, no, that's totally fair.
Yeah,
Like
no, it is. Like
something in my mind is like that's okay. Like if I did that to someone, that's allowed.
a lot
I don't know
a lot of
why.
stuff teenagers do back in the day and even maybe today could be malicious and just mean, but this for some reason
yeah.
just feels like fair.
It's just really
it
funny.
transcends
Yes.
bullying.
It's just in fairness, like if it was used as like part of a campaign of terror, obviously it would be bad. But like because it was always like you left the room and you left your bag,
Yes.
and like you could have taken your bag with you, and like it was at least in our school, it was never like you didn't target someone to bag them. It was always an opportunistic
was just-
thing. It was just like
if your bag is
their
free,
bag is
yeah.
out. The teacher isn't paying enough attention. I'm going to do this real quick. And also there was the fact that like if you were doing it, you were caught by the teacher. So there was a risk to you. So you were also gambling your own safety to do it. So there was kind of a fairness in the sort of cosmic balance as a result.
Yeah.
There was a certain safety to doing it because if the person's bag was beside you, you could grab it and it would just look like you were going through your own bag.
Yeah.
If you weren't in direct eye contact with the teacher.
Yeah, obviously the problem was if you took out everything, the teacher might be like, why are you doing that? But like that's why you have to put it on their seat so that they don't see anything.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of logistics to
Fucking-
bagging that you can go through now.
Bagging is and then obviously like you get better at it and you get faster, so people are able to do it more quickly in class. Honestly, oh god, that was fucking great. Bagging people is so funny. Yeah, that's all. Just so
Anyway, dragons.
to return to the point, the idea is that yes, that basically like a great worm can change because people lose faith or lose the idea that the old great worm is immortal, either because of say deliberate rumors spread by the great worm's enemies, or just because of the flow of time, or because they lost a fight, or because something happened and they didn't expect it, or whatever.
Well, that sounds like a really cool idea. Fascinating.
Yeah, that's
mechanic.
and also it's just fun having a powerful dragon in your game. I think in your Jesus
sure.
Christ, Daniel.
You're right, Dan.
Sorry,
It's okay. Don't worry. I hope you're okay.
it's my bonitis. I actually just I drank a bit of water and went the
Oh,
wrong
Jay,
way.
sorry
So
about that.
It's actually
Hope you're
fine.
okay. No, but I because when you read the monster manual, we will go into it. But when you read it and you kind of read about the descriptions of each dragon and each of their lair actions and how a powerful dragon can affect the world like that, it's just very cool. And you kind of want to put that into your game, I think. Like if we're talking about black dragons, a black dragon, a powerful one, can affect the swamp around them, and can really influence it, It's just a cool thing. Like I know that when I make a setting, I like to have each black dragon area already done, like I have a swampy area at some point, I have a arctic area for the white dragons, I have a mountainous area for the red dragons or blue dragons are desert.
Yeah,
right?
they
Tended to be.
blue dragons are like lightning storms. They're like sort of coastal, I think.
Yeah, okay, I think so. But also it always looked like there was kind of like a deserty I don't know.
Maybe they are deserty. I can't.
I don't know.
remember.
We'll get to it with time, but no, like mountainous for red dragons. Just like I like I'm when you're making an area, your setting for D&D, it's just always, if you want dragons, it's fun to have like, oh, this is where that dragon would be, and that dragon will be here, just because D&D is fun to have dragons in because it's in the name, you know.
Yeah, I agree. The only other thing about dragons in our setting is that one of the divine beasts, which is sort of like sort of a demigod. One of them is a dragon.
That's right. That's Morguis, the bleeding dragon. It's
Yeah,
kind of like
Morgrus, the bleeding dragon.
kind of like a god of death that
Yeah, basically the master of oblivion.
yes. And I just thought of like, I kind of took like inspiration from like cease the scaleless kind of in imagery, at least, of like, but just because they're scaleless, they're bleeding all the time, and they're just like a demigod that it's like a lord of the underworld, a master of the oblivion, as you said, Dan.
Yeah, I like to think of it as a creature that like was dying when it was found.
Yes.
And was sort of made the master of death, or like, you know, is it in Dark Souls that they say like Nito was the first to die or something like that?
First
Like
of the dead, yeah.
first of the dead, and like that's why like Nito's the master of the dead, just because they did it first. Like that, almost that idea of like Morgus was the first immortal ever to fall, and so as a result has like mastery over
Yes.
it. So I think that's kind of an interesting idea. Like almost had to comprehend oblivion and death before any other creature did. So as a result, it knows it best.
Yeah. And I think you can probably, I never really went into too much like where it's kind of like, but I never went into much of Morgus being a god but in a form of a dragon, and I didn't know like lore implications, what that can mean, I guess, like, but you can kind of do a lot of fun stuff with that if you really want.
Yeah, you can. Like all the divine beasts have interesting forms that you can play with, but you can also set it aside because they're supposed to be like mythical figures, so like they might, you know, they don't have to exist in the traditional sense.
Yes.
You know.
I remember because Morgus existed as a death god in many of my games in the past, so I kind of brought it back into this setting. But I loved people kind of having hallucination. Like I think a couple times, once or twice, I had players have hallucinations about Morgus, and it just like you see this bleeding thing in this distance, in this large form, and I kind of thought about the most terrifying thing I could think about, and it's a bleeding dragon, and that's why it's just in my head now. So
yeah, I mean, like that's a great idea. Is like as you die, like the shadow dark, like the skies darken, and this like massive shadow, like bleeding so much that it like is rain in the sky.
Yes.
Like, you know, and its eyes are two great stars, and like that's all you can see,
Yes.
and you can feel yourself drifting away into nothing, and like then your friend's like healing word, and you're like, oh fucking hell.
That's metal as fuck.
thank you so much for that. I didn't.
Oh my god, never send me back there.
I really didn't want to die. I know that's a given, but please. No, yeah, and that's Tim. Do you have any cool ideas or cool experiences with dragons yourself?
Honestly, I don't actually have a huge amount of experience with fighting dragons specifically, but I've come up with a couple of interesting little bits and bobs here and there for like sources of dragons, and like I like them kind of classically. Like they are in Celtic history, they're kind of like these primal beings. Like their influence on the land is like where a lot of magic comes from, and like druids will establish like their stone circles where a dragon lay for like where it rested for like 20 years or something. It just fell asleep for 20 years because dragons have weird perceptions of time, and they'll find this place and they'll build a little kind of druid circle, and that'll be a concentration of power in the world, like the kind of classical idea of the ley lines, which is a more kind of pagan belief, because they believed that the paths that dragons took through the world were part of like the flowing energy of the world. And so like I haven't put any of this into my current setting because I think it was a bit too like deep lore-y for what I wanted to be doing, but like using that stuff was what I was going to work through into my dragon setting, so that like dragons are a primal source of power, and like they basically dictate where like the ground is like blessed with plenty, basically. Like I can't think of like bountiful harvests occur around here, as if it were like near a volcano or something, because classically volcanoes, with all the ash, they have extremely fertile ground, and like wherever a dragon lay, maybe there's like volcanic activity underneath, but it never spews to the top. And like wherever a blue dragon lay, maybe specifically there's like lightning constantly hitting this mountaintop that grew underneath it because of its affiliation for lightning in the sky. And like specifics with regards that kind of stuff is kind of what I'm going to build my next world on, where it's basically shaped by dragons as opposed to like built by gods as like a side project, which my current campaign
Skyrim
is,
2
or my current
Tim?
world kind of is. Oh yeah, sure. Dragon. I mean, Skyrim is super cool. I love that. I used to have dreams of walking through Skyrim and like making friends with dragons. And Neil Patrick Harris for some reason. But
Sure.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah,
He'd be
he's great.
a
That
cool
seems,
friend.
I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Yeah, nice
I'm sure
guy.
he'd like
Yeah,
go for a pint.
Nice guy to go on a quest. No, but
Yeah, actually, that's true. In fairness, he'd be a good man to have on a quest, I'd say,
Because
because
he'd be an
like
excellent bard.
well, no, because realistically, like if you were trying to get somewhere, you're like, I can't get in, but like Hollywood actor Neil Patrick Harris
Yeah.
has a pretty good
Neil
chance of getting in.
yeah,
Just practically, like
yeah,
He just knows all bouncers somehow.
Yeah.
like Neil, can you get us into this exclusive nightclub? He's like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just good. It's like bringing the rogue. Like it's the same principle. It's like, can you pick this lock? It's like probably.
yeah. It's good to have a bard with the like entertainer feat who can get you into like any
with the folk hero.
yeah, something like that. They can get you into any place that you want. No, but as when you're mentioning there, Tim, I really like the idea of dragons, the interpretation, the classic one, I guess, of kind of them being like a pure form of magic, because they can kind of do like an innate spell casting if you so wish. Not the stat blocks won't have that, but it has like an option that will go through that they can have innate spell casting, but also that when they're powerful enough, they can affect the world around them just because they are powerful and magical.
Yeah.
I like them kind of being like a pure form of magic, really. I think
Exactly.
like just having that. I know some people who have done that interpretation of dragons being very like powerful and like powerful source of magic, you know.
And so, like, with the lore that D&D hands to me, I can shape the world around it. I'm going to definitely be adding some, like, water-based dragons, like sea serpents and stuff like that. And I might even make some of the kind of classic Celtic ones, like the... Oh, gosh, what was it called? There was a... give me a second. There was a specific dragon who was kind of famous within Celtic, and I'm going to be talking about him when I go into Celtic Dragons again, called the Master Store Worm, who was a sea dragon, basically, who when he died, he shaped part of the world, but also, like, he caused earthquakes with his yawn and stuff like that. So I'm going to essentially be homebrewing a couple dragons. I really like the angler dragon as one idea, so that's given me a little bit of inspiration from our audience. But like having to build a world like that, I think is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm probably going to build it from the map up, like I did with my current setting, because I think that's
Listen
awesome.
to the
But like current day,
to the first homebrew episode to learn more about the angler dragon, if you so wish.
yeah, that was excellent episode. But I think the setting is going to be like current day. Maybe only one or two like primordial dragons still exist, and the rest of the dragons are just kind of everyday kind of risks. I don't think it's going to be like a post-apocalyptic world like Reign of Fire, but I think there's going to be a lot of conflict arising between
Current
dragons and
day, like to now, like to us right now.
Whatever party I play with, like wherever it starts,
It's
is
still
going
gonna
to
be
like,
fantasy
current
setting,
day.
not like 2020 right now.
Yes, 2020. What's your 2020 vision?
But there's
I'm going to
dragons.
slide into a dragon's DMs.
That's the plan.
That's the
That's the
plan.
plan. That's the dream.
I'm going to get some nudes.
Cool. Well, Tim, we'll be there to help you out with your new dragon-filled setting, and the listeners will be there to listen to you while you devise that setting.
Yeah, I've got one final thing to say. Do we have any dragons from existing fiction that we would think is our favorite dragon, the dragon maybe we'd most like to have in D&D.
Yes. Okay.
Oof.
I'll go first because I know the answer for me.
Do man.
Smaug from The Hobbit, I think.
Classic dragon.
Nice.
I think the behavior of Smaug as a dragon and also its destructive power are great. And also the fact that it's a known entity to the outside world, and how it's sort of almost a political creature in addition to being an actual creature, and it's kind of cunning and it's able to talk and it likes to barter and it likes to do riddles and it sort of plays with its prey in some ways. I just think it's a great example of kind of a creature being large and powerful and dangerous, but also being very fundamentally kind of like mortal and flawed. I think is kind of cool. Even though there's interpretations of dragons where they're not like that, I like that version because I think it's more interesting and it gives the players more to play with.
Yes.
For me, it would probably be Jormungandr, which is like the complete opposite side of the scale to your like worldly one. Jormungandr is the Norse one, who's one of the sons of Loki, who is basically the world serpent, the Midgard world serpent, and he basically like holds parts of the layers of the Norse mythological world separate. Like it's just this immortal creature that is always consuming. I think it's one of the original sources for the vision of the dragon consuming itself, being
the Ouroboros.
Part of the Ouroboros. Yeah, Jormungandr is its name, and it's pretty cool and fascinating. Is this the end of our dragons episode 1 intro? Episode 0 essentially.
I think so.
Establish the Durgans.
No. Keep
No?
going.
Okay. Dragons, yeah.
That's enough.
And that's
That's enough. That's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in again to our radio frequency to catch us talk about dragons.
what's our radio frequency, Tim?
It's 99.969.
It's 42069.
And,
Yes, thank you. Blaze it.
Blaze it.
yes.
Nice.
But,
Nice.
Yeah, we will be continuing our Dragons Omnibus, as the boys like that I mentioned earlier.
Get back on the bus.
With our first episode on an actual dragon, which is going to be the Black Dragon, as soon as possible. We are available on our website. I'm sure you all know, creatureclubpodcast.com. Where you can download the episodes and you can subscribe to our RSS feed. We are available on Spotify, we're available on iTunes, we're available on Stitcher, and pretty much all of the places that you can put a podcast, so far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think so.
You can contact us via email, creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com,
Yep.
creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com,
creatureclubpodcast at gmail.com, at gmail.com.
at Gmail.
Your turn,
You
Mikey.
can send us... Excellent. And we are on Twitter, which is where we're most commonly available. Can you guys hear a cat purring by any chance?
Oh, I wish I could. That sounds great.
He's nearby. He's very
How's
nearby.
he doing, actually?
My wife has just brought him onto the... He's actually... he's doing okay. We still have to get him his inhaler. So my cat has inflammatory lung disease at the moment, and his thyroidism, we've got it basically under control, but his biggest problem is constipation.
Ah, it sucks.
He has a hard time.
That's everyone's biggest problem.
And
What's the number one problem in the world right now, Mikey? Not enough pooping.
not
enough.
It's not regular.
People can't be
Nobody's
I'm sorry. I do
regular.
not mean to mess. I do not need to mess around with the problems of your cat. I'm sorry, but I just said that.
No
I
worries.
hope he's doing well.
But yeah, as I would say, we are available on Twitter at Creature Club Pod, and you can just search us, Creature Club Podcast. We're pretty much always on there. We'll tend to respond pretty quick. People have mentioned us in a couple different spots. Did you hear that one?
No, I didn't. Hang on.
My cat is yelling at me.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Meow. Can it hear me?
Meow. Sasha. I don't think he's going to go for it. Anyway.
Come on, Sasha, be a sport.
Be a good sport. We have plans for 2020, which are hopefully going to come to fruition, and we'll let you know as we come closer. Oh, we come closer to doing
Spoilers on those plans. It's going to be a lot of dragons.
Yeah. That we can't spoil.
That is a spoiler we can give you. It's going to be dragons for days. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. You can contact us on our website. I don't know if you mentioned that specifically. There's a contact us form there.
Oh yeah.
As well as using email, as well as using Twitter. So basically, there's no reason not to send us something other than
just say hi.
If the platform you get our podcast from has reviews, it'd be great if you could give us a review.
Oh yeah.
I honestly said it.
We're all together.
Yeah, weren't you mean to read a review, Tim, once we got all together? And he said it like a year ago.
Yep. I said it last year sometime. I'm gonna go to Chartable, our website that we use to keep track of all of this stuff, and I'm gonna go to the dashboard, see if we have a review or two. Reviews. We have 12 reviews. Oh my gosh, we've had 2 since I last checked.
Fucking hell.
Good gracious.
Fucking hell.
So, one of them
I'm sorry about that.
is from Apple Podcasts in the United States.
I thought
and it's from
when you said from Apple Podcasts, I thought you meant like Apple Podcasts, like fucking Tim Cook's. Cook's they're like, good job, lads. This one's a good
job, lad. Hey guys, it's me from Apple. Good jobs on the podcast.
It's me from the Apple HQ in
Tim
space.
Cook. Apple.
It's your dear friend and godmother,
Tim Cook.
I hear you're doing a podcast, and it's great work, lads. Thanks, Tim.
The review is from Actual Bread via Apple Podcasts.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm curious what Bread thinks of our. I eat bread every day, so I am.
Bread, huge fan of the product, so I'm really.
Yeah, huge fan of your work as a thing I can eat. I ate you for dinner today. I made flatbread to go with my beef stew.
Very prolific reviewer right here. I think. Everyone's heard of bread. Like a lot of bread out there.
Got a lot to say, I imagine.
Yeah.
Almost as worldly as dragons in mythology.
Yeah, but less of a spoiler.
So
yes,
but it's a 5-star rating, so that's something to say.
Thank you very much, Bread.
Thanks, Bread.
Their title was there isn't a reason not to listen, so that's a double negative. So there is a reason to listen.
There isn't a reason not to listen.
Not to listen.
Fuck me. That's very funny.
So 5 stars. I've been listening to Creature Club for a while now.
Immediately, Tim calling out the reviewer's grammar. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It is bread, Tim, right? You got to give it. I mean, it's just yeast and water.
True.
And
I like to
flour.
think that you know the game I Am Bread. It's just that on the keyboard going on right now.
On the keyboard, trying to type. They typed is and then accidentally hit the preloaded word isn't. They're like, fuck it, I'm gonna
just
keep going.
Looking at the review, it looks like very good grammar, but other than it's just the first line, like for a slice of bread to do that.
I call you out for it. Yeah. So the review is: I've been listening to Creature Club for a little while now, and I only have good things to say. The commentary on monsters is really intriguing and gives insight on how to use them in game. And even if you don't play Dungeons & Dragons, you can still appreciate the world building and effort these guys put into their podcasts. 10 out of 10, a joy to listen to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brett.
I feel bad for calling him out like a
fan. That was so funny, though. I just...
it's grand. Cheers, Actual Bread.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much,
nice.
Brad. Big fan of your work. Yeah. Nice to hear you're a fan of our work, too.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to Bread 2, by the way. I don't know if we're going to get any demos for that soon, but
I think I'm sure. Next Nintendo Direct, we're going to get that, I think.
Oh, nice. It's going to be in the DLC Pack 2 for Smash.
Yeah, Sakurai has mentioned something about it.
Sakurai has the demo for Bread 2.
Yeah.
Bread rises to the challenge.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, that's really good.
Thank you.
Bread for Challenger Pack 10 or whatever we're on right now.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh, amazing. Anyway, that's about it.
This has
Thank you
been
all
a
so much
very
for listening.
silly episode of this podcast.
This has been
It
great.
has. It has.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm just looking at this bottle of wine and it's empty, so that probably says something about this episode right now. So
I did finish my Graham Norton wine, and I think that might have been my third or fourth glass because I was also drinking wine with my mum. So, yeah, you can bring it up with Graham Norton if you don't like it.
Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. Hopefully, the next episode will be something different and something less chaotic. I have been Mikey.
I have been Tim.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool.